If I wanted to get that information out to the general public, what that study actually said, a study that was conducted by the United States government, I could potentially go to jail. Does that make any sense? It's the biggest fraud that's ever been perpetrated on the United States. That's a proven fact. That actually happened. And that makes me sick, and it also makes me angry. You ask me why I'm doing this? That's why I'm doing this. Right now, the most successful people in the world are prepared for anything that comes their way. I taught myself to ask more questions and how to get more out of life. If you want more, it really can happen, and it's simple strategies and techniques. These aren't pie-in-the-sky things. I'm not one of these guys telling you about how to be successful and never done it. I do it every single day.
This is the Alden Report.
Fabulous, fabulous. So we have a little different view here. Actually, let me move that camera a little bit. I'm gonna move it. Move you guys a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Chris Musil just joined. I know him. He's a good guy. All right, well, I am running around like crazy right now. Literally just came back off the streets, so to speak, from literally going door to door selling Emery vodka. It's a product that we've released. We're really excited about it, and you know, I'm out there kind of making it happen. You know, a lot of people, and this is what we'll kind of talk about a little bit about, you know, our children these days. You know, this the Y generation. I've talked a little bit about it before. I've talked a little bit about it in my book, Ask More, Get More, which is, you know, still on the charts as a bestseller, was #1 on Amazon in several different categories. So if you're looking for something to really improve your life, you know, Ask More, Get More is the book. And my next book, 5% More, kind of expands on that a little bit and kind of shows people that anybody can do anything 5% more. And then when you do 5% a little bit better, kind of the same thing, right? Well, one of the things that's been frustrating me lately, and I've been reading a lot of articles about this, is that, you know, the Y generation or these 20-somethings or even, you know, 18, 19-year-olds, they have this weird sense of entitlement, or they feel as though they should be at the top. They feel as though they should be making millions of dollars. They feel as though, you know, they should, you know, be, you know, the next big thing. But what they don't understand, and it's this Facebook phenomenon that I was just reading about recently. I call it the MTV phenomenon. But what they don't understand is that it takes time to get there. It takes time to achieve, you know, success. And again, we've talked about success and really what that means to you and me might be different things. But you can't just get to the top by hoping for it. You know, in the title, I said, I forget exactly what I wrote in the title, but I said, you know, one of the things is as parents, you know, you hear about, you know, parents saying, hey, you know what, you can be whatever you want to be, Bobby or Billy or Mary. You can be the next president of the United States. And it sounds great, and it's awesome to give your kids, you know, a goal, right? But if you don't follow it up with anything, it's never going to happen. You're just going to create them and set them up for failure. So when you tell your child you can be anything you want to be, well, that is so abstract and so out in the open that there really is nothing that's quantifiable, right? When you say you can be anything you want to be, it's not a reality. They can't be anything that they want to be. They can be a singer. They can be a dancer. They can be an architect. They can be a lawyer. And yes, they can be the president of the United States, but it has to be set forth in a manner in which the children understand that they're going to experience failure. Okay, it's not going to be easy, and there has to be a certain level of realism. You know, I was talking to somebody recently. They said that they're an eternal optimist. I'm an eternal optimist. It's just ridiculous. Optimism is great. Okay, having a positive mental attitude is crucial. Because, you hear this and it's a fact. You control your thoughts. Your thoughts don't control you. And so when you want to maintain a positive attitude just to get out of bed in the morning, that's something that's actually a pretty good thing. But a positive attitude isn't going to get you or your child where they need to be in life. And right now, what's going on, and it's happening all over the country, where we're setting up our children for failure. When I say failure, if you've listened to some of my broadcasts before, I don't believe in really the word failure. I call them temporary defeats. But when I'm talking about failure right now, I'm talking about real failure. If you tell your children that they can be, the next, big thing, without really explaining to them what that means, 8, 9, 10 years old, you say, hey, you know what? You can be the president of the United States. And that's all you say. Well, that's what they're going to think. And guess what? They are not going to become the next president of the United States. Now, some people are saying, Mike, what are you talking about? This is just so crazy. You're being really negative. I'm not being negative. I am the complete opposite of negative. I'm talking about realistic expectations. One of my favorite books is The Law of Success. Okay, Napoleon Hill, he talks about, the power of one's mental attitude. And there are several different chapters. It's almost like a textbook. It's really kind of a roadmap for someone who really truly wants to be successful. But he talks about setting goals, and he talks about realistic expectations, realistic goals. I just started coaching soccer as an assistant coach, and I was talking to one of the other assistant coaches. By the way, our team is just awesome. We're really good, and it's because together, as there's three of us on the team, which maybe gives us a little bit of an unfair advantage. But there's three of us on the team, and I'm brand new. I really don't know really anything about how to coach U10 girls soccer. I'm kind of learning as we go, but it's a lot of fun. But one of the things that you see is that they don't keep score. Now, I get that they don't keep score for 8-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 5-year-olds. I get that. And even in our league now, I get that we don't keep score. But guess who is keeping score? The kids are keeping score. There's no way these girls at 8, 9, 10 years old aren't keeping score. And that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. But one of the worst things that we're seeing right now in the United States, it's happening all over the country, is everyone's getting a trophy. Everyone's getting a ribbon, right? And that is scary to me. And it really, really makes me nervous about what our future is going to look like, because everybody shouldn't get a ribbon. And that's just life. Now, if you want that ribbon, if you want that success, and this is what we're going to talk about, stop lying to your kids about telling them that they can be anything that they want to be. You can be whatever you want to be. Let's say what that is. You can be an architect. You can be, the owner of a haunted house, like Chamber of Terrors in Salem, Mass. You can be all that stuff if you actually set forth a series of goals, realistic expectations, and you achieve those goals. Telling your children that they're going to be what they want to be is really setting them up for failure. And again, it's really, really scary to me, and I'm seeing it every single day. I go back to, again, what we just talked about with the soccer. We're teaching these girls soccer skills. But really, at the end of the day, what we're talking about life skills. How to win. How to lose. How to work together as a team. How to overcome adversity. How to deal with, maybe the differences between an injury and being hurt. My coaches in football used to say, are you injured or are you hurt? Because if you're hurt, you can still play. If you're injured, you can't. And yeah, between 8, 9, and 10 years old, they need to start learning that stuff, because long term, these girls, most boys, at some point are going to hang up their cleats, and they are not going to be on the revolution. They are not going to be, in the NFL. They are not going to be in the NBA. They're not. So when you tell your kids that, Really what you're talking about is you're setting them up for failure. Now, look, I am a proponent of reaching for the stars, and that's what I'm not saying not to reach for the stars, but when I say if you want to reach for the stars, you need to set forth a series of goals. What's your 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20? What does your life look like? What do you need to do? You know, when my daughter's in 2nd grade, she had to put together this, essentially a autobiography of a collage, really. And one of the things that her teacher wrote down the bottom, she said, in order to be better, you need to do better. In order to be better, you need to do better. Not great job, honey. You're gonna be, whatever you want to be. You're such a great kid. Congratulations. Look, positive reinforcement. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is let's talk about realistic expectations. Let's talk about real life. Because I know you all know the people that I'm talking about, and there are kids, and they're 18, 19, 20 years old, that feel as though that they should be, the next CEO, the next movie star, the next singer, whatever it is. And they have just a whacked out sense of reality. And it's because of the parents. That's really what's going on. Look, I'm not saying I'm the best parent in the world because I'm not. But what I'm saying is, you need to give your children and even your friends, family members, when they're talking about goals, let's talk about realistic expectations. If you want to be the next CEO, you want to make $1 million, well, let's start with the first $1. How are you going to make the first $1? And then how are you going to make $2, $4, right? How is that going to work? What are you going to do? I've said this before. I say dreams are for sleeping. And it's okay to have an imagination. In fact, in the Law of Success, we talk about imagination. And imagination, by the way, is one of the most powerful things that a human being can harness. Imagination is awesome, and that's okay. We can imagine lots of things. But when I'm talking about real life goals, real lifetime successes, doing real things, we need to explain to ourselves, and we need to explain to our children and to our families that in order to really get there, you need to set forth goals, and you need to actually do it. In that same little autobiography, so to speak, on really just a collage that my daughter put together, and I talked about this and Ask More, Get More, she wrote down that she wanted to be a singer. And then she changed it on her own, and she said, I will be a singer, and in order to be a singer, I know that I need to practice every single day. And guess what? My daughter is not practicing to be a singer every single day, so I don't know if she's going to be a singer, but we talk about that. And we talk together about soccer. I say, honey, if you want to really be better in soccer, what do you need to do? You need to practice. You look at the NFL right now. We're in football season. Okay, all the pros, they all have coaches. They're all getting better. They're setting realistic goals. They're setting realistic expectations. And we talked about action in one of my other broadcasts. We talked about visualizing yourself in a certain position in life, and that's okay. That's not dreaming. Talking about closing your eyes and actually visualizing yourself on the football field, throwing the touchdown pass, throwing it to Julian Edelman in the top right-hand corner of the end zone. Actually seeing yourself doing it, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. Now what you need to do is you need to physically go out and do it. Well, if you're just a high school kid right now and you want to be the next Tom Brady, well, you're not going to get there by your parents telling you that you can be the next Tom Brady. You can't be the next Tom Brady unless you go out and do the things that Tom Brady has done. Right? I mean, that's really what we're talking about. And ultimately, by doing all this stuff, by teaching your children, teaching yourself that in order to make it to the next level, in order to be successful in life, You need to do these things, whatever they are. I live your life. I'm not sure, I can't, can't tell you what to do, but you know what you need to do. You actually have to do it and not just believe that you should be it because people told you you should be it. Now, if someone says to you, you're really talented singer, well, congratulations, or you're a really talented comedian, whatever it is. Well, in order to continue to grow in that career path, you need to what? You need to practice. You need to actually go out and do this stuff. And what happens when you do that? You increase what we've talked about before, we're always going to talk about. You've increased your net worth. Okay? You've increased your net worth. When you hear about these overnight successes, I was just talking about this yesterday. David Spade has a new book that's out. I haven't read it, but I heard Howard Stern talking about it. And, he says a lot of people think that it's an overnight success with people, but in all reality, for most people that we see out in the public eye, their success is about a 10-year overnight success. 10 years. And that's a lot of work. And a lot of people don't want to do the work. Look, there's no secret to any of this stuff. So when you go back to what I originally talked about with telling your children you can be anything you want to be, it should be followed up with you can be anything you want to be, and let's put in whatever career that is. However, you need to do certain things in order to get there. And it's okay to tell your 8, 9, 10-year-old that they need to do certain things to get there. And you also should show them some of the things that they need to do. Now, look, we're talking about I'm talking about 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds. I'm not being crazy and saying if they want to be an architect, you got to, send them to some sort of, architectural camp and, for the summer. What I'm saying is that they need to understand that in order to be what they want to be, they need to do certain things. They need to take certain steps. In order to be better, you need to do better. And that's it. That's really the basic fundamentals of life. In order to be better, you need to do better. Now look, it doesn't happen like that every single day. We're human. We can't always be on our game. We can't always be perfect. And I'll tell you today, I was just out on the road selling Emery vodka, and I tell you, my life is somewhat displaced. I just sold my house. I'm moving in a new house. I'm semi-homeless right now. I'm living on an air mattress. It's kind of crazy, but I'm out on the road and I'm exhausted. And quite frankly, I didn't feel like doing it. But I know, not only from the stuff that we're talking about here that's coming out of my mouth and my brain, but from the stuff that I've learned from other successful people, is that in order for Emery Vodka to be better, to be out there, to get out within the consciousness of the American public, someone's got to go out there and do it. I'm not the only one, but you have to actually go out and do it. You have to take certain steps. You have to set certain goals, certain expectations, realistic expectations. Now let's talk about the Emery Vodka for a second, because I want to give you this example. Look, I have no illusions that Emery Vodka is going to take over the world in a couple weeks, a couple months, even a couple years. We have realistic expectations and realistic goals that we've set. One of them, and I talk about it in my book, one of them is I wanted to be in 4 states by the end of the year, and that's exactly where we're at. Are we knocking it out of the park right now? Absolutely not, because it doesn't happen that way. When you see these overnight successes, they're not overnight successes. When Red Bull first hit the market in the early 90s, people thought this stuff came out of nowhere. Well, that's not the case. Red Bull, I forget the exact year, but Red Bull was actually launched in Austria in the 80s. And then it really didn't become huge until the 2000s. So it didn't just show up out of nowhere. They were doing really well in Europe before it actually even came to the United States. And, again, everyone knows the Beatles story. The Beatles, played for 2 years straight before anyone even knew who they were. And that's in the book Outliers, and there's a lot of other stories like that. But at the end of the day, You need to go out and do it. And you need to teach your children to do it. And back to the children stuff, it's okay to keep score at a certain age. I get it. It's okay to talk about winning and losing. Because if you don't, we are going to create a nation of spoiled brats who think and feel as though they should automatically get that ribbon, get the trophy, even if they didn't even accomplish the goal. Just because they got out of bed and maybe put one foot in front of the other doesn't mean they're entitled to a ribbon. They just got up and acted like a human being. They didn't do anything special. And giving your children or our children a ribbon or a trophy for doing nothing sets them up for failure. And that's a fact. By the way, I didn't just get on here and just start spouting this stuff out because this just came up in my head and I was sleeping a few nights ago and I said I want to talk about this. The scientific community agrees with me. This is out in the general public. This is, there are much smarter people, sociologists, psychologists that are writing about this, and they're all concerned as well. I'm just saying it not as eloquently as they are, and I don't have all the data and the stats and the charts, but they're out there. All you have to do is just go out and Google and just find it. If you really want to read all the scholarly articles and journals and things like that, it's out there. It's happening right now. These kids are given ribbons and trophies and not keeping score and talking, hey, winning and losing, that, winning is not important. Well, winning is important. Losing is important too. It's not all about winning. But our kids need to understand how to win, how to lose. And it starts with the parents. It starts with the coaches. It starts with the teachers. And we're the only ones that can teach our children this stuff. Someone was talking to me about a book that she read just recently. We're at the YMCA gala. She was talking to me about a theory called the butterfly effect. And basically the butterfly effect, how she described it to me, you call it a ripple effect as well, is the impact that one person has on another person's life, and then that person's life, and then it just, again, continues to ripple. And the butterflies just keep going and going and going. And as an assistant coach in U10 soccer, it really clicked with me. And I thought about the things that we do as volunteer coaches. And I thought, our head coach, by the way, is awesome. He's so good. But, we think about not necessarily about winning and losing soccer, but you think about the long-term effects of what we're teaching these young children. And I take that responsibility to heart, and it is very, very important to me. And I think about what we say to these kids, how we say it to these kids, and I hope that whatever we say and whatever we coach, maybe it's that one moment that 8, 9, 10-year-old little girl remembers that maybe I said, or maybe my other coaches said to them, that helps them get to the next point in life. And teaches them some of those life skills that maybe their parents didn't teach them. And shows them that it's okay to win. It's okay to lose. That they need to work together as a team. That they need to learn how to communicate. That there are consequences to their actions. And it's an awesome responsibility, and I love it. But for those of you that are listening to this now that actually have kids, think about it. Think about what you're really saying to your children. And think about maybe what other family members are saying to their children. And maybe you can phrase it in another way, or maybe you can show them in another way that they can't just be whatever they want to be. If they want to be something, then they need to actually do something. They need to take steps. They need to understand that they just can't be because you said they're special. It's a fact. It sets kids up for failure. Again, there's ton of articles out there, ton of research out there that talks about that, and it's really scary. And it starts with us. It really does. And yeah. So that's pretty much all I have to talk about this afternoon. I'm glad for those of you that did tune in on Periscope. I'm glad for those of you that are listening on my podcast and soon to be watching this on YouTube. On October 29th, which is, let's see, I think it's coming. I think that's this week. Yeah, that's in 2 days. In 2 days, I'm doing actually something really special. I'm sitting down and I'm interviewing local entrepreneurs that are doing real stuff. These aren't, people that are out in the public eye. These are people that are in the trenches, that are growing businesses, that are overcoming adversity, that are, solving problems. And it's real life stuff. So it's going to be on the 29th. I forget the exact time. I believe. Let's see if we can find it here on my phone. We'll be publishing it, but again, it's on the 29th. I think we're gonna start around maybe noontime, maybe 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But it's gonna be pretty awesome, and you should actually pay attention to it. And they're gonna have some real, real tips and some real information that you can learn from. If you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter if you are or if you aren't. These are real people doing real stuff. And we're going to continue to do that. We're going to do that once a month. We're going to interview local entrepreneurs, and then eventually we'll actually, expand it out nationally and bring in people that are doing stuff. Not these guys that are already sitting at the top and that are just looking down, from their pedestal. I want to interview people just like you, just like me, that are actually doing it. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be on the 29th. We are going to live broadcast it on Periscope. We'll also be publishing it on YouTube. But if you have time, you should tune in. There are going to be a bunch of different segments, so we'll do them for about 15 minutes and then take a break and so on and so forth. So, again, it's October 29th, which is in 2 days, and I hope you tune in for that. So, anyway, folks, my name is Michael Alden. We're here in Blue Vase Studios, and what we really talk about here is real people, real money, doing real stuff. Have a great afternoon.